And welcome. And we are recording this for people who don't make it. I know it's half term week, so I'm guessing some won't make it today. But yes, a warm welcome to everybody, and thank you for joining us. Um, I'll wait for a few more people to come in before we start the presentation and go into our questions with our panelists. So just bear with us for a few more moments. Okay. Still, the rush is still coming. Okay, I think we've got a fair number of people in now, so we'll start on time. And our topic for today, obviously, adventure in Europe and looking at the challenges and the opportunities, which there are many by the sound of it. I'm going to just very briefly introduce you to our esteemed panelists today. We're very honoured to have with us Lynn from Wanderlust magazine. She will be joining us in a couple of moments. She just had to jump off to jump into the car, but she'll be back again in a second. Mark Walker, head of product at KE Adventure, one of the UK's leading adventure companies. Also, Lisa Bissett from Max Adventure, another market leader in travel within Europe. Theo, who gives us the inbound perspective from Wild About Lapland and Silver Birch Resort, and myself as your moderator, Mark from the Adventure Connection. And I do want to say a little thank you to our team just for their support and help in putting this webinar together. And for those of you who don't know the Adventure Connection, we're a representation agency and marketing agency. We have a huge database of contacts, both outbound tour operators, inbound operators, DMCs, ground handlers, tourist boards, airlines, media, etc. So 5,000 plus contacts on our list. And with that, obviously, a lot of trade knowledge. I've been in the industry for 38 years now, and many of my team have been in a long time as well. I do want to say a special thank you as well to Etoa, who are partnering with the Adventure Connection on this webinar and on the Adventure Europe B2B marketplace event, which is coming later in the year in November. We'll say more about that a little bit later on in the next hour. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If we can ask everybody, please, to mute your microphone. I'm sure you've all used Zoom before. If not, then it's down on the bottom left. Or like me, you've probably got out of the habit of using Zoom and you've moved on to something else. But anyway, bottom left, so please mute. And also the chat feature, please just say hi in the chat. Say where you are today. It's always interesting. And the name of your company and your name. And any questions, if you want to pop them in, or comments, pop them in there and we'll address them towards the end of the webinar. So just a quick look through the agenda for the day. I'm going to introduce or ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves in a moment. And while we're doing that, we're going to do a quick poll from you guys and just ask you 4 or 5 questions about different aspects of tourism in Europe at the moment. We're going to move on then to talking about the new greenwashing laws, which are coming in or have been coming in, which will affect every one of us. the effect of over-tourism in Europe, climate change and the potential for changes in the active travel season, the Trump effect, and also what opportunities there are for off the beaten track travel. And we'll also just talk a little bit more about the Adventure Europe Marketplace event, which is coming in November. We aim to finish at 3 o'clock UK time, British summer time. So we will stay on track and make sure that you're all able to get on with your next meetings. So there's our poll. If you wouldn't mind, please just answer those questions now. And while that is going on, I'm going to introduce you to our panelists. And for a tour operator perspective, we have Mark from KE Adventure, the adventure travel experts. Mark, just tell us a few words about yourself and about KE.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so I'm Mark, head of product at KE Adventure, as Mark pointed out. And previous to that, I worked for HF Holidays for a short while. But my background really is in international mountain guiding all over the world. I ran a few companies doing that, and then sort of had family and settled into a position at a desk. So we're based up in Keswick in the north of England, in the Lake District. Currently it's sunny. That's going to change. And we've been operating Adventure Holidays for 40 years, starting off in Pakistan and then spreading further afield. We have about 370 products and a split of both guided and self-guided products all over the world. I'd say about a third of our product in Europe would be categorized as being European. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. We'll come back to you with some questions in a few moments, Mark. Thanks very much. Going to move on to Lisa. I'm told reliably that's how her name is pronounced. Lisa comes with a wealth of travel background in the industry. Can I ask you, Lisa, as well, to introduce yourself and say a little bit about Max Adventure too?
To be here. Thanks for having me, Mark. I've been in the travel industry for close to 30 years, worked in group travel before discovering the joys of adventure style travel. So for the last couple of years, I've worked for some really great companies. I currently work for Max Adventure, which is an adventure specialist company that was founded in Scotland in 2003 by Neil Lapping, who's our owner and CEO. Very similarly to KE Adventure, we offer self-guided walking and cycling holidays. And these are self-guided adventures where we empower our customers to have the freedom and confidence to explore destinations within Europe. We also sell holidays to Japan and New Zealand. And yeah, our itineraries are tried and tested. We have a free and easy to use Max app, which give our customers the confidence and security to know that everything's taken care of, all the bookings and the logistics are made, and they've just really got to get out there and discover. So that's all about Max Adventures. And yeah, again, thanks for having us today.
You're very welcome, very welcome. And I love the strapline, active travel led by you. I think that's a
great, isn't it?
Love it. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, let's now look at the inbound perspective, and going to introduce you to Theo, who runs an inbound operator called Wildabout Lapland up in Finnish Lapland, and recently launched Silver Birch Resort, which is possibly the world's best antidote to over-tourism. So Theo, a bit about yourself and about your company.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you to your team for having me here today. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Theo. I am British, but I've been in Lapland now for the last 10 years. I started Wildabout Lapland 9 years ago, and prior to that, I was in the military. But my entry to tourism was back when I was in my teens, when I started to teach outdoor adventure in different places around the world, teaching sailing, climbing, and kayaking, what have you. but now I am up here doing something a little bit different, working as a tour operator. And obviously, as Mark just said, we've recently opened our first resort, which is keeping me rather busy. Yeah.
Great. And thank you, Theo. And I've taken the liberty of getting one of your videos to play, because I think what you've got there is something very special. And I'm hoping you'll be able to hear the lovely piano music on this as well. So just sit back and enjoy this for a few moments. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, moving on to our next panelist, I'm hoping Lynn has re-entered our webinar. She had to a clash of appointments. Lynn, are you there? If not, I'm going to move on fairly quickly. Lynn told me, and I think only Lynn could have possibly given this as a reason for having this clash of diaries. She said she's getting married, a slight clash of diary, and she needs to go and do something official relating to that. She said they called me while I was bouncing around in a Jeep in a wildlife reserve in Al Alula in Saudi Arabia. And there's only one person in the world who would actually use that as a reason. Anyway, it's a very good reason, and I know she is having to travel, but she is joining us at any moment.
Mark.
Oh, you're there.
Oh gosh, so embarrassed about this. Yeah, sorry, I'm in a moving car, and you know, yeah, it's class. First of all, can I say, but what an incredible video! My gosh, hats off to Theo. That was absolutely superb. Beautiful.
It really is beautiful, isn't it? I've watched it many times, and the music just makes you want to be there, and it just shows, adventure, in Europe is very much a real thing. It sort of demonstrates that remote wilderness and very high level comfort at the same time. So it's yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
Lynn, tell us a bit about Wanderlust and yourself, and a little bit about the travel green list as well.
Yeah, so Wanderlust was founded in 1993. I was co-founder, and I'm still with the business as a founding editor. And right from day one, we were about, well, taking the road less travelled. We were about sustainability. The word wasn't really used then. And I guess conscious travel. We were very much about travel rather than, real travel, rather than lying around on a beach. And so, or, the fly and flop type thing. So another word that we use a lot is authentic, very much about authentic travel. And although we've covered a lot of long haul destinations over the years, it's perhaps what people know us for, we've also tried to cover the secret corners of Europe as well. And again, right from the start of the magazine all those years ago. And the Travel Green List was something that we introduced 3 years ago. And the idea was to actually celebrate organisations, destinations, initiatives, projects that are really helping travel to be a force for good. And so it's initiatives that are, green, responsible, whatever, but where there's a clear tourism link as well, whether that's in a way that travellers themselves can get involved, or whether it's something a bit more fundamental, looking at accommodation or whatever. And so, as I say, we've just very much, just in the last few days, published the Travel Green List 2025. So it's in the magazine that's just gone on sale. It's on our website, wanderlustmagazine.com. And
I
we
have a copy of it here.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Mark. And so, yeah, we have taken 50 destinations who are doing wonderful things. And in another part of the magazine, we also have tour operators, some tour operator trips, and then we're also looking at a selection of accommodation as well that's really going above and beyond.
That's great, and I did notice that you've got a nice little section on some short breaks, adventure and eco breaks in Europe as well at the back, which is great to see and very timely for this webinar.
That's right. I mean, for instance, we've done a kind of a green guide to Corsica, because Corsica is somewhere where we notice all the messages around it seem to be, again, about just going and just enjoying the beach or whatever. And we thought, well, surely there's so much more to Corsica than that, this incredibly beautiful place. And so, yeah, and that's what we try and do. We try and tell the stories that will apply to a readership who really want to get under the skin of a place, really want to understand it, might well want to use public transport such as rail, and really discover, the real culture and the identity of a place.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Lynn. I'll come back to you in a moment. I want to move on now to our poll, which hopefully everybody has been filling in. And yes, so we now have some results. Hopefully everybody can see that on the screen. So the first question, are you aware of the new greenwashing laws? Only 30% are aware. 26% saying they've heard something about it but don't know much about the details, and 44% saying they don't know about them. So we're going to talk more about that in a moment, but that is interesting. Is over-tourism a serious concern? Yes, 28% of you, 49% saying it is a problem but not a serious concern, and 23% saying there are no concerns about over-tourism. So again, we'll come on to discuss that topic as well. Do you feel the need to extend the active travel season? Vast majority of you think yes, 92% would like to operate more in the shoulder seasons, early spring, late autumn. And then an interest in off the beaten track destinations. The majority of you, again, 68% saying yes, people are looking for more, less visited places. 30% kind of neutral, and then about only 3% saying no. And then the Trump effect, yeah, 42% saying you have noticed a change in demand, which is very interesting. And we were talking just before the webinar, and Lynn had some very interesting stats on that, which we'll talk about in about 10 minutes or so as well. So I'll leave that on the screen. I hope you can all see that. And I'm going to move on now to talk about our questions for our panelists. And the first one, and I'll come to our tour operators first, to Lisa initially. Any changes in demand that you're seeing in 2025, and then I'll come to Mark after you.
Thanks, Mark. We have seen considerable growth at Max over the last couple of years. Our most popular routes are routes such as Tour Mont Blanc, the Camino de Santiago, and the West Highland Way. So we've still got a lot of demand for those, but there's been a noticeable swing towards lesser known destinations or lesser known routes. We travel to kind of off the beaten path places and European countries where there's fantastic walking and cycling opportunities. And certainly countries like Portugal, Switzerland and Austria have been performing really well for us. In terms of trends, we've noticed extended travel seasons, that people are choosing to travel in months like March, April, October, whereas predominantly it was between sort of May and September. Those seasons are extending a lot. And I think people are trying to probably, in decision making for their holidays, avoid crowds and less hot, soaring summer temperatures, hence the reason why they're traveling and shoulder seasons. We've also noticed a trend for more solo travelers, a rise in slower adventures, people wanting to take more time on their holidays and really enjoy and savor the local atmosphere. And for us, cycling has been a growth point for 2025. All of our trips have e-bike options, and I think a lot of customers that have previously enjoyed walking or hiking holidays are now considering taking cycling holidays as well. So that's a little bit from us at Max.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks, Lisa. Mark, I know, to some extent there's some overlap between KE and Max, but any trends there, any changes, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, so that's the I guess there is an overlap in that we offer self-guided as well as guided, and really that is the trend that we've seen. So we have both a mix of guided and self-guided within Europe, and the more straightforward walking holidays that we would previously offer, that we also offer a self-guided version of, have increased in the number of people that want to travel on those, on the self-guided, and the guided group versions of those trips, the numbers have decreased. So we're finding that more of our clients feel comfortable traveling on the easier trips self-guided, and the more technically challenging trips they still go for the guided version of them. So that's the main shift that there's been. We've had an increase in self-guided and a decrease in guided on certain trips in certain destinations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if I can come to Theo, just from an inbound perspective, with Wild About Lapland, perhaps initially, any sort of trends, any things that you're noticing over the last year and in forward demand for the rest for later this year?
Well, of course, we only run guided tours, so nothing much has changed there other than we've had to massively increase the amount of departures for Wild About Lapland. The one thing that we have seen since we started the company in 2009 is our bookings are constantly increasing compared to those of our let's say the other companies who are doing similar things, but they're doing mass tourism, and it seems that they're getting less and less traffic. If I were to look at the resorts, I think people are looking more for tours now, which are going to locations where there are less crowds, and really people really trying to escape the mass tourism, especially here in Rovaniemi, where I'm based.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And I'll come to Lynn as well. I mean, obviously you're not an operator inbound or outbound, but you're talking like me. You talk to hundreds of them, and you're noticing trends. Anything that you're particularly noticing in 2025?
I'd say that nature has, I think nature, of course, was always big with our readers anyway, nature and wildlife. But I've seen that really come up with COVID, and talking to tour operators, there's been a lot of about that as well. And so people just wanting to be in nature. Increase in activities such as walking, such as electric bikes, e-bikes, that demand's not going to go away. Demands in getting in on the water. We're seeing more dark skies and astrotourism interest coming along. And so people wanting to incorporate all of this onto a trip. and just generally, yeah, really have a much more 360 view of nature and feel that immersion in it. Yeah, that this is very much, something that a trend that I don't see going away. And there's so many ways that can be played, eating outside, cooking outside, foraging, all of those things are very, very in vogue and will continue to be.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. It kind of leads us into perhaps some of our, our other questions that we want to go in. And on the panel, sorry, on our poll, it seems that a relatively large percentage of those here aren't really aware of the greenwashing laws that are due to come in. If I go back to the tour operators, Mark, are you kind of aware of this, and are you on the case with what's going to be happening?
We are aware of it, and we're on the case as much as anyone can be with any European directive. There's a lot to go through with it, and I for one welcome it. I think it's a very good thing. It puts everyone on a level playing field by the sounds of it. We all know that there's a lot of greenwashing that goes on, and so this should make it so that we're all heading in the right direction, really, with our policies. Yeah, so I do welcome it. I'm aware of it, and I kind of we understand the headlines behind it, but until we actually get the document and can decipher it, that's as far as we've got with it, really.
Okay. And just for the benefit, I mean, obviously a lot of people in the room are not aware of this. So I'll just give a quick outline to everybody. What it will mean, and what it does already mean, is if you make a claim that you are sustainable, or that you're eco-friendly, or any of those kind of words, you have to be able to back it up with something. With some kind of documentation or certification. And if your suppliers are telling you that they're green, that they're running things sustainably, you can potentially be sued and fined for not being able to document and provide some sort of certification. And you can be fined, I think it's up to 5% of your turnover, which is a pretty huge amount. So this is coming in already for the larger tour operators, and it's affecting it. It's a European directive, so countries within the EU, but because the whole supply chain from the UK is also affected by that, it does mean that here in the UK we'll have the same issues. So it's something that's coming up really fast, and something that everybody does need to be aware of. If I can go to Lisa and just ask you, Lisa, is this something that you're also on the case with, or looking from a distance nervously?
Absolutely. Mark, Max Adventure became certified B Corp last year, and we're really proud of that achievement. It was a milestone for us, but it's really just part of a bigger journey that our business is undertaking at the moment. We're really committed to transparency and accountability. So this Green Claims Directive, I think, is going to help us establish clear standards and guidelines for the environmental claims that people make. And I think it's going to protect the customer, the consumer, ultimately, from deceptive marketing. So it's something that we're really interested in. It's something that at Max, it's something that we're striving towards improving our carbon outputs and our sustainability credentials as well. So yeah, it's just understanding what those laws mean and how they're going to impact some of our smaller suppliers. I think there needs to be greater transparency for smaller suppliers and understanding what it means to drive a green agenda. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting area that we're certainly a part of.
And do you have any advice on for people who aren't so aware of this, of what they should be doing for other people that are listening now?
Yeah, I mean, I think sustainability is a core part of our business strategy. I actually am part of the Travel by B Corp committee. We're having multiple conversations at the moment in terms of what being a B Corp means in the travel industry and what businesses can do. And I think there's an education piece as well. I think suppliers in Europe and smaller hoteliers and bed and breakfasts are really keen to be a part of it. But it's just understanding what it means. And I think the EU's broader effort to kind of make transparency for everybody, it's going to help everybody have an understanding of what is actually required. And so if everybody does their bit, it kind of helps. And particularly in our sector, we support local. We prioritize smaller, locally run accommodations and businesses. We're wanting our travel to impact the communities where our customers travel. So we tend to utilize family-owned hotels and properties, and we support local luggage transfer suppliers. We're also involved in a number of organizations for path stewardship. Some of the paths that we actually utilize for our holidays, we're supporting organizations such as Trash Free Trails and Leave No Trace. I think carbon transparency is a really interesting topic, carbon scores, which are part of the B Corp accreditation. And then having a carbon action plan where we focus on real reduction, just not, offsetting carbon emissions, but, real actions that we can take as a business to have an impact.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Very commendable and well done on your B Corp certification as well. I've started on that journey, but there's a lot of admin there that I've still got to get through. I'm looking
we're
forward.
really proud of it at Max, and it's a focus for the future. And I think we're very lucky to be in the adventure sector where we have the opportunity to make a contribution.
Yeah. Okay. And before I go to Theo, from an inbound perspective, Lynn, I mean, what are you hearing about this amongst operators, suppliers, etc.?
I think there's a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding at the moment on the new legislation. I was at an ABTA conference recently on adventure tourism where it was mentioned, and very few people in the room knew about it. So we're all going to have to be on a learning curve, certainly, about that. We already, as a magazine, have to be incredibly careful, and for this green list, we very much had to look at these claims, obviously, of the people who nominated, the organisations that nominated themselves. And I think I think it's going to be welcome legislation. I did hear, I don't know if it's true, so I won't name the tour operator. I did hear a tour operator that did get in trouble by the advertising standards because they couldn't prove how that their tours really were sustainable. And so it's quite right that there is a spotlight on this now. It is a bit of a wake-up call because too many suppliers and tour operators were making claims. But we will just have to see. So it's welcome, but I think we all have we mustn't be caught out. We've all got a lot to learn.
Yeah. And what about you, Theo? Again, I'm not sure what level of awareness you've got, but I know you are certified by in terms of your commitments to community, etc. What's your take on this?
Well, it's interesting because Finland has been, I think, quite ahead of the bar on this. We've been a member of the STF now for over 3 years. That's Sustainable Travel Finland. And they've done a really good job within the Visit Finland, so the tourism board of Finland, that in order to be even put onto the websites in Finland, you have to have this STF badge. We were the second people in Lapland to have it, the second company. And the STF, in order to get through this process, I think Lisa was saying something really good about one of the best things about the process is the education that it gives to for me, to the entrepreneur. So the more that I understand, the more I can direct my team, and the more impact we can have, even as far as how we teach people that we're on tour with. So the small bits of impact we can teach them that they can have without trying to preach too much. And the STF, as we all know, they're quite a big process to go through. And in order to pass the STF, you then also have to get a third party badge, of which we went through Biosphere to get their certificate. And that also is a process. I just go in.
Yeah.
It took us 1 or 2 months to get the badge, and this we have to renew every year.
Okay. So in terms of the law, you're in a good position because you have got sort of certification and fairly robust, I guess, paper trail to prove what you're doing is has got some backup to it. So would you give advice to others to go ahead with that kind of certification process? Is it hard? Is it
Oh,
easy to get through?
it's really blooming hard. I'm not going to lie. It took a very long time. You have to provide a huge amount of evidence down to the receipts, the purpose, the understanding of a circular economy, how it affects your community. But what it does do is, it sent me in a direction where I'm like, oh goodness, we need to make more of an effort in the community by supporting the youth ice hockey team, or we have to support X, Y, and Z. So it benefits you massively as well. It's not just hard work. It means that you're a part of a local community. You make more of an effort, and in terms of what I believe it's done for our company, into it's good. It's good to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and congratulations on that. And I also welcome this. I know it can be quite hard for DMCs, for operators, etc., and for companies like us to, it's sometimes easy to say things, but then are you backing them up? And I think it's right that these claims are being now policed. And I think we all, everybody who's here today needs to take note that it's coming and it will affect all of us and potentially could lead to large fines if you are making those false claims. So I'm going to move on now to another question. I'm going to go to Lynn first on this, about over tourism. And from our poll, it seemed that it was only a concern for 28% of the people here today, but there's a recognition by 50% that there is over tourism, but it's not a serious concern at the moment. And Lynn, I know you Wanderlust did a survey about over tourism recently. Would you like to share your views and any results that you know of on this?
Yeah, we were intrigued this is the first time we'd asked it, and so we were particularly intrigued to see the results, not really knowing what to expect. But I think it became clear it really is an issue. Now, what we did do is we split it out between readers of the magazine and our online audience. So the readers of the magazine itself, both the print and the digital one, are they tend to be extremely keen, experienced travellers, and the average age, well, it's certainly the 50+ audience, shall we say. The average is probably in the 60s. And whereas the online audience is a lot broader, and demographics are a lot broader, and the average age is younger. So we did find a disparity between the two, but even with the online audience, who I would say are not such a kind of core readership, if you like, it kind of pretty much matches the survey you just had, because essentially I think it's 30% did feel that they wouldn't go somewhere if they felt it was over touristed. And so that's still, I think, quite a high figure who are considering not going somewhere because of over tourism. But then the really strong one was that core magazine readership, who, like I say, tend to be they're more your active 50s, 60s and upwards. And in that case, the majority of them said they would now avoid somewhere because it's over touristed.
Yeah.
And so it was when I say startling, perhaps it's not a surprise, but it really does show that perhaps that more mature, more discerning audience that so many tour operators are after actually want to avoid places that are over touristed. Now, in some cases, with obviously some of the cities, for instance, in Europe that are known to be over touristed, maybe it's a case of that they have already been there. That could be one spin. It's always hard to speculate on surveys, isn't it? Because you want so much more information. And so I think next year we'll ask even more questions around it. But I do think that it does show, though, that that there are travellers who are put off. And of course, this does create an opportunity, because I think this does create, therefore, an opportunity for destinations to show the alternatives. And we were already seeing that, not as a Wanderlust, but across the media now, where they are coming up with, what's it, destination dupes, seems to be the phrase of the year.
Okay.
Where you really can go and still have, the wonderful culture, the wonderful architecture, or the wonderful nature, but without the crowds.
Right. Very interesting. Yeah, and that's stat that you said earlier about 95% of those readers said they wouldn't go. I mean, that does ring alarm bells, doesn't it? For I guess those places that are in the news at the moment and that seem to come up time and time again. And I guess for any tourist boards that are in the webinar now, they need to take note and be aware that, well, there's a PR thing to manage, but there's also the reality of how do they distribute that tourism out into less known places, and we'll come on to that in a moment too. I'm going to come back to Theo and talk to us about over tourism in Lapland, and again your way of overcoming that and how to overcome that.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So, many of you probably know about Rovaniemi in Lapland. It's the home place of Santa Claus. We have the Santa Claus village here, and of course we have all the reindeer and the huskies. But what we also have here now are 70 to 80 direct flights a day to an airport which is the size of a small farm.
Wow.
Okay, so in the winter, over tourism is absolutely something that we're observing here. Lynn just said something very interesting. I'm kind of taking it from my perspective, though, Lynn, is that it is giving some people opportunity to make changes in the way things are done in these over places where over tourism is a problem. So, for example, what I've done with the resort is we have done the exact opposite to what all of the other resorts have done. We have 20 beds rather than the average of 200 to 700 beds. So that, yes, over tourism is a problem here, but you also have a lot of smaller niche places which are really attracting those who really do not want to go to the overcrowded places. And I'd say there's also my company and many others here now who are doing tourism for small group tours only. So although the destination in general is very popular, what we do have in Lapland is a huge amount of space.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me go to our tour operators. And again, so Lisa, are you seeing any effect of over tourism on destinations that have maybe traditionally been good for Max, but maybe there's changes in demand? What's happening for you?
Yeah, it's interesting, Mark. I mean, I think that's why I feel kind of lucky to be working in self-guided travel. We have a group-free format, which means that our customers don't arrive en masse. they kind of blend in, they support the local communities, and they explore at their own pace. And I think because we're experiencing such a growth in this sector of self-guided, I think that's what it's all about, self-guided. It's about getting away from crowds and into nature and into less traveled places. And I think that's the joy about a self-guided walking or cycling adventure. And there are multiple operators that are in this sector, but we understand from our customers that they're looking for more off the beaten path experiences in all the popular countries of Europe. A lot of people have kind of ticked the big box destinations, and using Spain, for example, they've been to Madrid, they've been to Seville. So now they're repeat visitors to these countries and taking cycling holidays or walking holidays to more remote places where they know that there's not going to be over tourism. So there's a fine balance. Of course, people want to go and see all the iconic destinations around the world. But at the same time, I think people are looking for nature as an escape from their busy lives. And that's where kind of self-guided offers people the choice of getting off the beaten path for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna move on to Mark now, and I'm gonna sort of just move this question onto the active travel season and any changes that are happening or you think maybe need to happen. And again, from the poll that we just did, 92% of people said they would like to operate more tours in the shoulder season. So Mark, what are you, again, if you feel you want to comment on the over tourism issue as well, then please do. Any changes in seasonality that you're noticing?
Yeah, I don't feel the need to comment on the over tourism section really. I mean, we operate all over the place, and we don't really go to that many places where over tourism is a problem. And if we do, we then change them. So that's the take on that. I could mention the Lake District, but that's not fair. So
Okay.
my village. So yeah, changes to the season. We have found that our standard go-to adventure travel destinations in Central Europe, there's been a decline in the numbers on those particular trips, and there's been an increase in both Scandinavia and in Eastern Europe as well. And from an operational point of view, speaking to our agents and speaking to our customers, the main reason for that is due to the heat. A lot of our trips are very active, and people just can't operate in the hot summers that we've had. And so we have made a change to either add additional departure dates either side on the shoulder seasons, and indeed remove certain dates in the middle of the summer as well. So that's really where the change has come from for us. That's what we found.
Yeah. Okay. And Theo, can I ask you, how easy is it to adapt? I mean, if there is demand that is shifting, how easy is it to accept then clients in those shoulder seasons? How do you find that?
Well, as an operator in Rovaniemi, we have everything in place. We have the people, the staff are in place, the cars are in place, all activities are here. It's just as of yet, we don't have the direct flight. So it's just the shoulder seasons in Lapland, they're not as accessible as during the peak seasons.
Okay.
However, if we look at August through to September up here, they're some of the best times to come up and to see the Northern Lights, or to do bear watching, or to go paddling during Ruska, the autumn period. So
yeah, interesting.
For many companies in the Scandinavia area, especially for the Finnish Lapland, we aren't selling winter when we go to trade fairs anymore. We're selling summer.
Yeah. So I guess the tourist boards that are here today and airlines, maybe they need to listen and think, okay, there's demand there. We need to put that supply chain in place and promote those shoulder seasons, off seasons, because the infrastructure is there already.
Yeah.
Lynn, do you want to add anything on?
Sorry to interrupt, Mark. We have
Oh,
our
sorry.
first direct flights from Milan now, and they're coming in fully booked every week.
Are they?
Yeah, and
Right.
it's fabulous. So I think Visit Rovaniemi and Visit Finland have been trying very hard to get more direct flights, especially from the UK. But of
Yeah.
course, most of those flights have already been determined to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Lynn, any advice for tourist boards, operators, etc., on extending the travel season?
Yeah, I think there's such an opportunity there. I mean, we already know that our readers do like to travel out of season. Surveys have shown that over the years, and again in our big reader survey this year, there was an even more of a move to that. And you know, and all that thing about getting away from the hot summers, that's a definite thing. I hate these phrases like coolcations, but it's true. People are looking at that. But I still think that tour operators and tourist boards, DMOs don't do enough to promote other seasons and the advantages and, you know, what is, you know, the reasons to go the rest of the year. And I really notice this because obviously as media, we do always do things like when to go boxes around articles. We do a lot of that online as well. And if we go to people for information, so often, or you just look for the standard information when I Google and look at what tour operators or tourist boards are saying, so often it's the same old thing about, you know, high season is this. But actually, there needs to be more talk about, you know, what is on in the rest of the year. And so being positive, we just heard from Theo about, you know, Ruska, you know, and things like the autumn colours in Europe can be absolutely incredible. And, you know, competition for the fall in the States. So that's something that can be promoted. Festivals, of course, are a big thing on putting on food festivals, literary festivals, music festivals, at times outside the high season and promoting that. For wildlife, for bird watching, for seeing bears, all those sorts of things, it's usually not the high season that you go to see them. So I think there's a real opportunity to tell positive stories around the wonderful things to see outside of high season. And it's something, you know, that, as I say, I just see very, very little promotion of. So again, a great opportunity. Mark, before I finish, because I am going to have to, I'm afraid, rush off in a second,
No worries.
literally. I know that you made reference to it before. You're going to be talking about the Trump effect. So very quickly before I go, and I just reminded of it because I just mentioned the United States. There was a really interesting report last week. I don't know if people saw it from the WTTC, the World Travel and Tourism Council, that travel to the USA is down, they think, around 7%. And of that, travel from the UK to the US is down 15%. And I was actually talking to a tour operator a couple of weeks ago who, in confidence, told me that their bookings to the US were down 20% this year. So already. So I think, again, just to use that word opportunity again, I think there's a great opportunity here for Europe to be, you know, really promoting itself as somewhere that has got, you know, so many of the things that the USA has got the autumn colours, have got fantastic scenery, jaw-dropping scenery, etc. Great road trips, you know, great whatevers. But I just think, again, it's a great, great opportunity for Europe this year.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Lynn. They're fantastic stats to share. We will let you go and say thank you, and we'll carry on. It's been great to talk to you, and we'll no doubt see each other soon. Thank you. Let me ask the others in the room. So Max Adventure, you sell in the States as well as from the UK. So any changes in demand that you're seeing?
No, Mark, we've still got continued growth from our US customer base. It's fast become our largest market, and the demand is not showing any significant signs of slowing down at the moment. And yeah, I think, we've got a Facebook community. A lot of our customers are already active in the Facebook community. I think Americans are potentially a little bit concerned as to how they would be perceived, but we all know that people are not responsible for politics, and politics is a bit of a taboo topic. Americans are wanting to travel. They're wanting to come to Europe. I think, if you think back over the last couple of years with the pandemic and all sorts of bits and pieces, people are really keen to get stuck into exploring again and to travel to Europe. So we're delighted that we're still experiencing continued growth from the US. We've heavily invested in promoting our holidays there. So, we haven't had any changes in demand. But I mean, I think if you watch the news every day, it's best to turn it off, is my opinion.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I get lulled into watching the 10 o'clock news and then wish I hadn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Mark? Any changes? Is there a Trump effect for KE?
Yeah, so we sell into the States. We've got some American holidays, and then we also have American clients too. And we've seen that there's been a decrease in the passengers going to the USA, but an increase in passengers for us coming from the USA. So, and speaking to some travelers that I've met when I've been out and about, Americans are quite keen to leave the country and go and see the world a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we found. Yeah.
So that's a double-edged opportunity, I guess. More people traveling out of the US, and if there's less going in, then Europe potentially benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Theo, I'm going to have to speed up a bit because we're running a little bit towards the end. Any effect in the US of the Trump effect for you in Finland?
I'll help you speed it up. No.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question then, Theo. What are the opportunities now for adventure tourism in Europe this year, next year?
In Rovaniemi, in Lapland, massive. The Lapland is a place of opportunity. For the rest of Europe, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask for quick answers as well from Lisa.
Lots of opportunities, and engaging with some of our suppliers, tourist boards. I think there's tons of opportunities in Europe, and yeah, we're really excited about the rest of 25 and looking into 26. Thanks, Mark.
Any particular destinations you want to tip for the future?
Yeah, Scandinavia, Theo. Not just because you're waving your hand, but I mean, I think Scandinavia, Iceland. And I think there's still a ton of opportunity in the United Kingdom, from Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England. I mean, we have so much on our doorstep from an adventure travel point of view in England, Scotland, Wales. Tons of opportunity, and engaging with local suppliers along the way. I think, together we're stronger and we can make good decisions on behalf of our customers, for sure.
Great, thank you. And Mark, you mentioned Eastern Europe, the Balkans, etc., and the Nordics. Any in particular, and any other areas that you tip for next year or this year and next year?
Yeah, so I think the Balkans have continued to grow for us, and I'm sure that's the same for many others. I really think that Scandinavia in particular is going to become a more of a premier destination, and for us, with some of our mountaineering and long distance trekking that we do within the Alps and the Pyrenees, I imagine that Scandinavia will take a lot of those customers and spread them out a little bit more.
Men det är ju först var det påsken och sen var det bara.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Okay, well, we're going to move on. We've got 1 minute to go, so I'm going to go really fast now. I'm just going to mention the Adventure Europe Marketplace event in November. If you haven't booked it already as a supplier, you can do that online. There's a link. Beth, I think you're going to put a link into the chat if you haven't done that already. And it's something that ETOA is partnering with the Adventure Connection on, a place for suppliers and buyers to meet, and also for media and agents. So if you're interested, 18th of November, it's online and it's a relatively low cost show as well. So something we're keen to promote. Are there any questions or comments or ideas? I haven't been able to, it's been an engaging discussion, but anything, Beth, that we need to answer on the
Yeah.
from the comments?
Yes, there's one question from Sarah, which said, how adaptable is the adventure tourism for people with low mobility, considering the US profile and aged customers, and what possible solution is there?
Okay, that sounds like a great topic for discussion. I'm not sure if anybody wants to come in on that with, or that sounds like it could be a whole webinar in itself.
Yeah,
I'm
I agree. I think
Europe is relatively well placed, but Theo, do you want to, are you able to answer anything on that?
I think very shortly, I think accessible tourism is more and more important. Everybody should have the right of access. And I think it's you should have a webinar just on that.
Okay, let's try and maybe, that does sound like too big a topic for the moment, given that we are actually over time by 1 minute. So I'm going to wrap it up. I will try and come back to you. If you could grab that person's details, Beth, and I'll see if I can drop her a line separately. So thank you for that. And sorry, we've gone a little bit over. Just a reminder of what we're all about if you need any help. And just a really big thank you to all of our guests, our panelists, our partner, ETOA, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you don't already follow us, we're on LinkedIn. We're fairly prolific on that, thanks to Beth, and also on Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to get updates on webinars and fam trips and other events, then please do follow us on there. I think we'll call it a day, and I will say thank you again to everybody, and see you on the next webinar or at the next trade show.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.